Hello everybody, this is Hammer Striker here. Got a couple classic DASAs sitting here on the table. I've got the H&K USP, this one is chambered in 9mm, and I've got the Sig Sauer P229, this one happens to be an Elite and it's chambered in 9mm. Please don't forget to check out our website. Go to our affiliates page. You'll find discount codes for things like Mantis Axe and Core belts. Link to that cool little bore light that we use for lighting up the barrels. Use those links, it will often save you money, never will cost you any additional money, and helps the channel. And please consider supporting the channel on Player, formerly Utreon, where we can do some types of videos that are no longer allowed on YouTube. The H&K, the USP, there's a compact and a full size. This is the compact, which is roughly equivalent to the P229, which is also considered a compact. The P226 would be the full size equivalent of this for Sig Sauer. Both of these guns are very classic designs. Double action, single action, with a number of controls on them. Sig Sauer has made lots of varieties of this, and this one is a TALO edition, so it was a distributor exclusive. This one that you see in my hand exactly isn't currently available as new production anymore, but the 229 is available. There's also a Legion version of it available, and it over years has come in various color combinations and frame styles and everything else, but overall it's basically fundamentally the same gun. This one also historically was available in 40 and 357 Sig. As of right now, I don't see the 357 Sig or the 40 as still current production. Like a lot of manufacturers, the 40 and the 357 Sig are starting to lose popularity with manufacturers. I'm only aware of these available in 9mm as new production. Enough of these have been made. I'm sure you're gonna, if you're looking for the other two, you'll find them floating around out there. It comes with the 15-round magazines. They are steel magazines. These are phosphate coated, and you'll find different varieties of the magazines overall. Because again, Sig loves to do marketing packages and dealer exclusives, so the exact nature of what you're going to get is going to vary greatly. For example, you may find the magazines to be this style. This is a 226 magazine. It's not a 229 magazine, but fundamentally it is the same kind of styling. From a controls perspective, it has, of course, the slide slap, slide release, takedown lever. Takedown on this is easy. And it has a decocker. So right now the gun is cocked. And notice when I decock it, the hammer doesn't go all the way down. It's on a safety stop. So with the decocker, it is safe to decock it using the decocker with a round in the chamber, but you have now converted this to DA. It's a double action gun at the moment. If I have the hammer thumb back, it's single action, you'll see the trigger comes back. If I pull the trigger, you'll notice that it stops on that safety stop after it fires, so that it is a drop safe weapon. It has the internal drop safeties and the decocker. Let's talk about the trigger on this for a second. This one, because of being the version it was, has the factory SRT trigger. So I'm in the single action mode, a little take up to get on the wall, very light, very crisp, very short break, and a very short reset. That's what the SRT stands for. And I'm right on the wall and then a crisp break. It's a very nice light trigger. Now in this case I didn't cycle it, so it's hammered down. It's a heavyish but smooth double action, and it breaks at the same point. Of course, in double action mode, if it had cycled, it would be back into that short reset. Because it didn't cycle, you know, it's the same double action pull again. And of course, that gives you double strike capability. It does have a 3-slot, regular Picatinny rail. It's not a Sig rail. And this version of it comes with the Sig Light night sights. And the Sig Lights are nice because they're a night sight, but they have a white ring around them, which means during the day you can still see them. There's various flavors of these, different color rings and stuff like that are available on these Sig Lights over the years. But the majority of these will come with some version of these Sig Light sights, and they're a nice 3-dot, easy to see sight. So let's talk about the H&K for a little bit. So the H&K is also a double action, single action. It does have a H&K rail. That's not a Picatinny rail. So that would be one negative. You have to use things that are designed for the H&K rail. And one thing you'll see here is it has a very small paddle release. It's ambi, so it's on both sides. If I flip it over, you'll see, if I get my finger out of the way, you'll see it's on both sides. So it is a usable release, but it's different than the classic button release you'll see on the SIGs. The controls, slide stop, slide release, and decocker. So if I push the safety lever down, it's a decocker. If I push the safety lever up, it's a safety. Now it's important to note from a trigger perspective, the USPs come in something called variants. The variants determine what setup you have for the fire control. So this is a double action, single action with a safety and decocker. You can get versions that are single action only, double action only, and it's different variant numbers. So unlike the Glocks where Gen 3, Gen 4 is kind of a model progression, the variants on this don't focus on the version of it. It's not a version number. When you see V1 or V7, it's not a version number like a generation. It is a fire control group variation. So you can pick the fire control group you want. The nice thing about this particular one is I can carry it cocked and locked. If I'm a 1911 guy, I can carry it hammered down on a loaded chamber. And if I want extra double, triple safety, I can decock it and then I can thumb the safety on. So one nice thing about it is it doesn't really matter how you want to carry. You can carry it with this particular version. You can carry it any way you want to. Both of these have nice grips, but one of the things you're going to notice, this is an alloy frame. So the P229 is all metal as far as the gun itself. The USP is a polymer frame. It's one of the earlier polymer frames. The grips on the P229 are more along the lines of 1911s and things like that, where you actually have grips that bolt onto the frame. So you can get all sorts of different kinds of grips. This is the one that came with the TALO Edition, but you can get rubberized grips, you can get different wood, you can get them with or without the Sig logo. Pretty much the sky's the limit. With the USP, it's more like a typical polymer gun. What you see is what you get. It's got some texture on it, checkered front and back strap, but this is it. This is the way the gun is going to be. From a controls perspective, the Sig has no ambi features. The USP, you can move the safety lever over to the other side without having to buy anything. You'll see it's a blank right there, but it does have the indicator. You just move the lever over, and now you have the safety decocker on the other side, but that's the only ambi features on it. They're both very nice looking guns. I will say that the USP is a little more on the utilitarian side, whereas the Sigs tend to be a little more decorative. Now you can get the Sig in just kind of plain black, where it's just utilitarian, military style looking, but the Sig does come in all kinds of varieties over the years, so they tend to be a little more decorative. The Sig, surprisingly for an older design, does have front and rear serrations. The HK doesn't really have any front serrations, and the positioning of this little shelf, it's kind of too far back to be useful for that. However, it's big enough that you can grab it with your hand and you can cycle it, but it doesn't have serrations dedicated to that. It does have a little serration on the front of the trigger guard, which you find is common on polymer guns, and so does the Sig. Now, one thing I was going through, I did the trigger on the Sig, I didn't do the trigger on the USP, so let's do that. So let's start hammered down on this one to be a little different. There's the take-up. Kind of a longish, heavy-ish DA pull, which that's not unusual for DA. Of course, in double action mode, the reset's all the way out. I pull it again, so I have double strike capability. But if I cycle it, like most DASAs, trigger comes back. About the same amount of take-up as the Sig. A nice crisp break. A little bit longer reset than the Sig, but still nice, and some take-up to get back on the wall, and then a nice break. The hammer is all the way down on the USP because it actually fired. But if I were to bring it back, of course, as I said, you do cocked and lock like a 1911, but if I decock it, you'll notice the hammer doesn't go all the way down. So just like the Sig, it's sitting on a safety stop, and it also has the internal drop safeties. Typically on this style gun, all these DASAs, you do not have any sort of inertial toggle. You don't have the split trigger, hinge trigger, the Glock toggle, and that's not necessary on this type of design. The safeties are back here with the stop and the decockers and thumb safeties. Notice the Sig doesn't have a thumb safety, it's just a decocker. So that does limit, cocked and locked isn't an option with this one. Dimensionally, they're close. So I'm going to kind of set them up side by side. If you go beaver tail to beaver tail, the USP is significantly shorter. If you exclude the beaver tail and bring it forward to line up the slides, it's closer. But the advertised length of them, the Sig is 7.1 front to back, and the USP is 6.8, so 0.3 inches difference. But again, that's not really accounting for the beaver tails in Sig's measurements. From a height perspective, I'll drop the magazines into them. They're close. 5.4 for the Sig and 5 for the USP, and these are sitting up on their sights. But that, is going to be the difference in the base plates and things like that. If I line them up nose to nose, move the USP in front because it's a little bit smaller. If I try to line them up nose to nose, see if I can get them pretty close, you can see the difference. You can see where the beaver tail sticks out. Now, with the beaver tail on the Sig, it's near impossible to get slide bit by it. This one has a deep undercut, and also it's probably near impossible to get slide bit. Now, when you're looking at guns in this category, the dimensional differences that I'm talking about really aren't significant. Where there is a more noticeable dimensional difference is in the thickness. So the Sig is significantly thicker at 1.5 versus 1.14 for the USP. And the Sig, of course, the thickness can be influenced to some extent by what grips you put on it. But your classic metal guns with the overlap grips tend to be a little bit thicker. Generally, when you're looking at this kind of gun, you're looking at either holster carry or inside the waistband, outside the waistband. You're not trying to stick these in your pocket or strap them to an ankle. So those dimensions may be more insignificant to you. Weight, there is a more noticeable difference. So the Sig weighs 34.4 ounces and the USP weighs 26.1. So there is a noticeable difference in weight because of the polymer frame. And I had failed to mention the sights on the H&K this one is just classic 3-dot. So they're just classic 3-dot white sights. Both of the guns have dovetail sights. You can replace them with the sights of your choice. So if you want night sights on the USP, you can have them. And neither of these are optics ready. These are old school guns. They're not optics ready. I'm sure they could be milled, but like this one's got components here, so it's probably difficult or impossible to do that, and the same is true of the Sig. So if you're looking for optics ready guns, look at something else. You're looking at some of the more modern guns, the Echelon and the Glocks and Springfields and things like that. When you look at this, you're looking at classics, and most likely you're going to operate it as such. The other thing I didn't mention is the USP has a 13-round magazine. It comes with 2 of them, and the Sig has the 15-round magazine, so you get a little more capacity in the Sig. Price is one of the places where they are a little bit different. The MSRPs are close on these. The MSRP on the USP is $12.99. The MSRP is $1,000 plus, depending on which one of the variants you get. Of course, obviously, the Legion is going to be a little more expensive. You can probably routinely find the USPs around the $1,000 territory, depending on where you're looking. I have seen the basic version of the 229 in the 650, 700 range. So the Sig can be had a little less expensively, but both of these are going to be a little higher price than the polymer wonders that are common. In fact, being able to get a classic metal Sig at a lower price is kind of interesting. Both of these are readily available. They're still in production in some variant. Maybe not this exact variant, but of the 229, but they're available. They're out there, and they're good guns. Both of these I found easy to shoot well. They're fun to shoot. They're getting a little closer to the 1911, whereas you're operating them, you feel the machine working and things like that. So they're fun to have at the range. They're both proven reliability. Both of these have been used by various militaries, so they have that proven track record and the trust that goes with it. So you can't go wrong with either one of them. It's really going to come down to what you really prefer, what you like overall. My personal opinion, there's just something about the classic metal Sig guns. If I'm looking at a gun this territory, I'm probably not going to carry it. I'm going to carry a Glock. They're light, they're small, they're easy. If I'm looking at one of these, I'm looking at something because it's cool, it's fun, it's something really interesting. The USP is a great gun and it worked reliably, but it does have a tendency to be just a hair more clinical than the 229. So for what I would choose a gun like this for, the 229 would take the win. But if you happen to say, no, I don't want the Sig, I want the USP, you're not making a bad choice. They're both great guns, and you can't go wrong with either one of them. Beyond that, if you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up, share, subscribe, click that bell up there to be notified if you do. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Player, Rumble. We're pretty much everywhere. And thank you.